Rich, thanks for joining me this morning.
Absolutely.
So Rich, 2012 is really shaping up to be the year of accountable care in terms of all the initiatives that are launching. But I'm really interested in learning how the typical hospital is prepared for all the initiatives that are rolling out.
Well, I think the honest answer is hospitals are in very different places depending upon what their experience has been to date, what their situation is in their local market. But there's no question that everybody has been working hard to improve their quality and safety, improve their efficiency. But the question about accountable care is, what's the actual organizational and process configurations that are necessary to get to a really new level of performance and accountability? And that's where some organizations have invested significantly in connecting parts of the continuum, in working closely with physicians. Other organizations, for market reasons or resource reasons, may not be as far along. So pulling it all together, I think, is where that variation comes in. But there's no question that the overall themes of greater integration, the ability to handle financial risk, and more accountability for performance, more public reporting, and so on, is going to be applicable for everybody.
And as hospitals go down that journey and encounter some of the different challenges that you've mentioned, what are some of the issues that are coming up just in terms of some of the kind of bumps in the road?
Well, they're some of the usual ones and some new ones because of the new approach. Some of the usual ones have to do with resources. What types of investments are going to be required? Where's the capital going to come from? Who will be partners and contributors to this effort, and so on. Another set is, of course, always the legal questions. What can be done? And there, with the CMS projects under the Affordable Care Act, there's been some clarifications provided. I think the lawyers would probably all agree that more clarity would be useful. But we don't yet have that same degree of clarification or that movement toward clarification out in the regular markets, the relationships with commercial payers, and how we organize these things in that open market sense. So resource issues, legal issues, those will all be challenges going forward. They'll all be part of the learning curve. But again, there's also a lot of internal issues, teamwork issues, and coordination, communication issues, infrastructure issues that have to work out. This is something we've never done before on a grand scale, and we've not been set up this way. And all the while we're moving this direction, we're still trying to take care of patients under the current system. So it'll be a lot of challenges.
And one of the things you mentioned earlier was the role of physicians in a lot of the initiatives and a lot of the partnerships. How is that making the hospital-physician relationship kind of evolve?
Well, it's been evolving for some time now. And certainly in the last 5 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in the speed with which hospitals and physicians are coming together. Unlike the 90s, where hospitals intentionally went out and tried to acquire practices, it's really the physicians who are driving a lot of this, saying they want to be part of a larger organization, or maybe they want to get out of the business of care and focus on the provision of care. But for whatever reason, physicians seem to be much more willing to work with hospitals, and hospitals, I think, are much more realistic about how to try to bring that together in a way that works for physicians as well. So we've seen a lot more employment, we've seen a lot more other forms of engagement, and that's only going to increase as the generational change of physicians changes through the system. Young recent graduates coming out much more inclined to join either a large group or a hospital. The second change, and we've been talking with our regional policy boards and other governance groups about what's changing in the physician realm and how can we help. Big change there is, to put it simplistically, the movement from the physician as captain of the ship to leader of the team. Very different orientation, not a command and control or hierarchical relationship, but rather more of a leader, coordinator, motivator type of relationship. So that's evolving and very important for, again, the coordination of care and greater efficiencies in care. And I think the third thing is that the physicians just aren't going to be there in the numbers that we've had before, the ratios of physician to population. And so we have to figure out with physicians the best use of their talents. A long time ago, a wise, experienced physician leader said in a meeting I was in that we have to learn to hold the physician's expertise for the point of ambiguity. It's like real estate. When you talk about real estate, you say, what's the highest and best use? Well, with a lack of physicians, we're going to have to figure out the highest and best use of their talents and how to supplement that with other members of the team, pharmacists, nurse practitioners, and others. And all of that's going to take some time, but it's happening. It's underway.
So that sounds like that's just going to involve more flexibility than maybe they were accustomed to before.
Yeah, probably a broader perspective in the sense that it's less of a craft where I go and I do my job, and more of a coordination effort. Here's the broader job that has to be done to get the patient outcome that we need. What can I do best? What shouldn't I be doing? What can somebody else do best? Still get the results, still maintain the patient's satisfaction. So it is a broader look, and I think much more of a leadership look for physicians in the future. But again, we're going to have to work that through with them over time and learn as we go.
Rich, another thing we keep hearing from a lot of hospital executives is that they feel like they're kind of balancing right now between the kind of volume-based and the value-based world, and they kind of feel like they have a foot in both worlds as the situation kind of continues to evolve. At what point do you think they'll have a better sense of kind of a tipping point where we really truly move to where the value-based purchasing is more of a dominant model?
You'll know when the present system is no longer viable. It just becomes untenable to be there. And so you literally get to that tipping point where you say, please, let's cut the ties to that. Let's move forward into this and eliminate the schizophrenia. What people are worried about is getting from here to there. You know, what happens to the cash flow as we decrease utilization and improve that efficiency of the system while we're still getting paid on a utilization-based platform. So I don't know that we'll be able to predict the time. You know, some people say, what's the percentage of revenue that comes from one or another? I'm not sure you can be that precise, but you'll listen to the noise of managers and clinicians, and even the payers, frankly, who will also potentially be living in multiple realms. And the noise level will tell us when people say, hey, you know, it's clear this is the direction we're going. It's clear that this is a built-in problem and inefficiency trying to live in multiple worlds. How do we now move? Exactly when in a time frame, I can't predict. But back to my first rather quick comment, I think we'll know when we're getting real close and people start to say, it's got to be better over there.
And another issue along those lines is just the challenges that the smaller providers are encountering as they look at all these issues, and particularly rural providers. What sort of partnerships should they be looking at that are maybe different than maybe what the rest of the market is looking at?
Well, a minute ago I spoke about the notion of team in the care delivery sense internal to the organization and the care of any given patient. But in a more macro sense, it's the same message. It's going to be a team effort across a region. And so a lot of rural hospitals have built relationships with larger urban centers or referral centers, some with academic centers. Those are both real and virtual relationships. Some of them are organizational and legal in nature. Some of them are telehealth, IT connections, and so on. But I don't think there'll be any escaping, whatever the organizational design is that's right for a given hospital, a rural hospital. I don't think there'll be any escaping the notion of connectivity and coordination. And so, again, I think each organization will know when it's right to maybe move from just virtual to legal and structural. But that'll be different in each market. But there's no escaping the notion that for the patient's sake, and in order to deliver the cost and quality kinds of results that we'll be held accountable for, it's going to take a lot more a tight relationship between the rural areas and the rest of the system.
Well, Rich, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, Haydn. Thank you.